welcome to the Fit for Business and Life podcast, brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, improving the performance and transforming busy or overweight professionals, business owners and consultants, along with their teams, to become happier, healthier and more confident. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is all about sharing passion, knowledge and expertise around business and personal performance from our host, myself, Martin Sharp, a 30-year change maker in businesses large and small, and our special guests who will be sharing their know-how and experience to make changes in business and in themselves. This will feature inspirational stories, insights, tips, practical knowledge, bringing you more healthier, happier and high achievement to your world. So today our special guest is Mark Pitcher. Now, Mark Pitcher is a body transformation coach to men over 50 and the founder of the Fit After 50 movement. He helps men over 50 to lose weight and get fit without dieting through the use of simple, practical and a healthy program. The Fit After 50 formula is designed to fit in around a busy family life. After undergoing his own body transformation, he lost 24 kilograms and kept it off. Mark's passion and purpose is to help other men do the same. Mark is 57, married with 4 children, and lives with his family in West London. He has been a personal performance coach for over 10 years and operates the Fit for Life, his own outdoor fitness boot camp in his local community. So please join in with Mark. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you, Martin. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And obviously we've been doing things together now for quite some time, actually several years, and it's been lovely being part of your transformation and seeing you kind of grow, and it's been even more amazing. So you pick up all those skills afterwards and then starting to create your own movement for people after 50.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you are a major part of it, my journey and support, and yes, I still remember where I was when I made the very first phone call to you, going, I think I need some help. A few years ago now, and you definitely did that and set me on a pathway which is still going. So yeah, thank you to you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And I remember the conversation myself, actually, because one of the kind of key things you were really wanting to know is all the background information. That was kind of as much as important as actually getting the transformation done. So when we had our original conversation, we said it's great to see what you've done, but actually, how did you do it? Why did it work? And you almost soaked it up like a sponge. So for me, it was that I was really impressed by the fact it wasn't just a case of you wanted to parrot fashion what was going on, but actually you really wanted to understand how it works, why it works, and then how you can actually apply it to yourself. And just tell me a little bit more about that. Where's that kind of passion come from about, knowing and have that knowledge to make things work?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about that. I think I've always had I've always been curious about how things work, why. I want to know why all the time. And can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, good. And I think, so as you say, rather than just sort of do this, do that, it's like, okay, so why do I eat that thing? What does that thing do for me when I consume it? Or what does that exercise, what's that doing to my body? I was always curious about that, which kind of really led me to then my own journey into becoming a PT, personal trainer myself, and understanding more how the body works. And I think it was a perfect storm. There's a kind of I guess there's a happy bit and a sad bit. So the happy bit is that, there was this perfect storm. It was a moment in my life where I was on my own personal journey with health, weight, fitness, and keen to soak up, as you say, like a sponge, anything I could get. And having tried on my own in a very hit and miss way with various diets and ideas about how I was going to lose weight, and then did what I recommend everybody does, and just hire a coach and say, get someone who's ahead of you and knows and is an expert to help. And that kind of that combined with professionally just being at a point in my life where what's the next step, what's the next phase, knowing that I wanted to help people, knowing that I love transformations. I love seeing things go from one position A to position B being better than where they were before. Was figuring out how I might do that. And I was in the gym one day thinking about that, lifting the dumbbells, thinking, hey, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And it was really, I guess, thinking, well, I guess the person that I want to help the most is like me 7-8 years ago, you know. So that was the sort of the happy element to it. That was one element. The sadder element is in terms of the passion and the purpose and the drive behind it, and which, you know, is just innate in me. Is I was, and this I have to sort of rewind back a few years. I was in a, you know, what to the outside you would call a successful career. I was, you know, in a job that I, you know, largely enjoyed, and you know, earning enough money for us to have, you know, a decent quality of life, family life. Very tragically and very suddenly in 2016, I lost my eldest son, Charlie, to suicide, which was, you know, there are no words. It was like a bomb going off in our lives. It wasn't expected. And it led to, after the initial sort of shock of that, a period of really, and am I allowed to swear on this podcast, Martin?
Go for it. If you need to do it, at the end of the day, you've got to express yourself. You can't keep these things in, as you know.
Well, I'll you know, and I do it deliberately, and it was my moment. It was a moment in life where it was like, you know, what the fuck is it all about? Why am I doing all of this? What's the point of it? Because it was so, you know, having sort of been moving through life, you know, looking to achieve certain things, it suddenly lost a lot of its meaning, and all of its meaning, really. So it set me on a new journey, and I made a choice to channel. I realized that there is a purpose and there is a point, and life is, through all the sadness and darkness I was going through, is beautiful and can be beautiful if we choose it to be. And I found a channel for my, essentially, whatever I would never try to describe it for anybody else, but I guess if you want to label it, my grief. And you know, I carry him with me every day, and here I am, you know, channeling that into something that I'm really passionate about, that I know something about, that I'm learning about. I learn from you, I learn from others, and here I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we've had conversation about this several times. And I always remember one, because obviously there's lots of psychological kind of things going on all the time when you're trying to transform. I mean, obviously you've got this tragedy that kind of happened in your life, and that's obviously kind of been a big lever. But then also it kind of cropped up a couple of times as you were going through your own transformation, because there's kind of the learning bits and you're just starting to apply it. And one of them, I can remember the conversation was all around your son's favorite meal, which became a bit of a celebration piece of his life that you guys all have. And you were kind of panicking at one point that, you know, how am I going to fit this into my transformation? I mean, do you want to just tell people what that favorite meal was, maybe?
It was, yeah, well remembered, by the way. Yeah, so my son Charlie, his favorite meal was sausages and mash, bangers and mash. That was his favorite thing. So every year on his birthday in my family, we have sausages and mash. It's just like a thing that we do. You know, that's our little religious ceremony. And sometimes we manage to all be together, the wider family, and that's amazing when we can be. But geography sometimes doesn't allow that. So wherever we are, we'll send a photo or and do that. And you're absolutely right. When I was really in my, I guess, initial stages or early days of losing weight and really focusing on my food, you know, very, very scrutinizing, perhaps a little, you know, again, it's all part of the journey, isn't it? I've relaxed much more on that these days. I'm like, just eat the sausage smash. It's okay. It's going to be fine. It's not going to kill you. But I remember being those, as a lot of people are at the beginning, a bit like maybe like a junkie with it all. And I was like, right, no, it's got to be, everything's got to be exact. And oh no, sausages, I can't have sausages, you know. And yeah, definitely relaxed. I've definitely relaxed that a bit, and would yeah.
Yeah, it's progress, not perfection. Isn't it?
No good foods, no bad foods. Just yeah.
Exactly. It's just everything becomes like nutrition. Yeah, break it down into the building blocks. That's what's going to fuel your body, fuel your change that you're kind of going through. But I do remember, I mean, obviously, because you were going through that kind of process, and you're not alone. I mean, so many people have these same hang-ups all the time when they're going through the change. They think almost they have to be perfect. They've got to get everything absolutely right. And then when they don't, they kind of beat themselves up about it. And then when they do and they don't see the change, they beat themselves up about it. There's this constant, almost like self-criticism going on a lot of the time. And I went through the same thing, so I know exactly how it feels to go through that kind of process. But I kind of guess that now that you're kind of helping coaching people through that, what's some of the advice you would give people that are working with you specifically around those type of issues?
Yeah, so kind of related to what you said, really, which is first of all, it's not a diet. You know, I'm gonna just make the statement, you know, I don't believe in diets. So diets for me don't work, because the very notion of a diet is that it's temporary. It has an end date. You hit a target. Most diets will lose you weight. And then what happens when the diet finishes, you know, and which is where I used to be. And I think really, I guess, in terms of advice, it really is that mental game. It's the mindset of, and there's a lots of parallels with other things in life. You know, acceptance. You know, first of all, it's like, okay, I've had too much alcohol, or I've had too much food, or I've overdone it. Okay, just accept that. It happens. It's allowed. It's life. It's called life. Let's enjoy food now and again. Well, let's enjoy food every day if we can. You know, it's to be enjoyed, but not to beat yourself up, not to punish yourself. Just to accept that instead of getting, you know, to where you wanted to get to in the next 2 days, you might need 5 or 7 days, and that's okay, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. I suppose to sum that up, I'd say to people, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a lifestyle. There are always going to be bumps in the road, and I guess as a tactic, if anyone's listening, one thing I've learned to do is to allow myself treats. So not to restrict and then rebel and go the opposite way. And I'll try not to swear again, but not to press what I call the F it button. So you get to Thursday, you have a blowout, you press the F it and go, I'll start again on Monday. You know, we're all very fixated on this sort of calendar that we operate to, this Gregorian calendar of Monday to Friday and then weekends, and I'll start on Monday. And actually your body doesn't care whether it's Thursday or Monday. So just get back on and relax and try not to, you know, if you have a bad day, try not to make it 2. I think you taught me this actually, Martin, and try not to make it 2, and definitely try not to make it 3. But with treats, I put an X on the calendar. I literally put an X on the calendar. And if we're going out for dinner for a special occasion, I'll go, right, I'm going to have a dessert. I'm going to have whatever I want. I might have a cocktail, and give myself permission to do it, really enjoy it, no regret, and carry on. So I've had my, whatever you want to call that, my release, my treat, my reward for whatever I think I deserve, and then back on it. So the default becomes eating healthy, and you know, maybe you do have to compromise. There's no, if you're not looking to manage your weight or be in calorie deficit, do what you like. Probably podcast isn't for you even, but my this is maybe not be for you, but if you are looking to manage weight and be healthy, that it's going to involve compromise. So it's where you're going to give yourself some slack.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way you kind of remember all those little things. You know, you just have the one effort moment. Don't make it a second or a third. And that's right. I mean, it's a case of it's done, it's dusted, it's over. And I know exactly how that feels. I mean, I've just come back from snow sculpting, so that's a week where I'm shoveling like a ton of snow, so I'm burning calories like crazy anyway. So it does mean I will have the odd, more than an odd beer, to be frank. And we just enjoy that kind of week, and that's what it's about. It's a be part of the community and things, and you become part of life. And everyone has this. They need to have that life with them. And if they're not doing it for a specific sport or a specific look or a specific goal, if this is all about just the well-being of the person, and there's as much well-being when it comes down to the emotion and mental state as it is to do with the physical state as well. So it's kind of baking all those things in to make sure you've got something that carries forward. So to me, just feels the right thing to do. And then being able to give people tactics and tips and strategies of how to then manage that within their wider scope of aspirations, etc., is just fantastic. So it's lovely to hear you're kind of doing the same type of things there. And it kind of reminds me of so there's lots of other conversations we had. There was one I remember where you were talking about the apple cider vinegar right at the beginning. You say, "No, I do my apple cider vinegar every day. I quite like it." It's like, okay, what about the bigger things, you know? And then you start to roll off the Nando's and the other takeaways, etc. It's like, well, let's get those things in order. And I'm kind of guessing you've got this similar mindset when you're working with your clients. It's almost like you start off with the big building blocks and kind of work your way to the smaller people.
100%. And you're absolutely, again, well remembered. I have a pyramid. It's so that model, if you like, building blocks, as you say, is for me, it's a pyramid, and there's 5 layers to the pyramid, and they are prioritized in order of importance. And for me, the bottom layer of the pyramid, just quickly, is calories in and calories out. So this is where I'm going to sort of just make statements, I suppose, and people don't agree with it, they don't agree with it. But for me, if you want to lose weight, which means being in a calorie deficit, it doesn't matter what colors of the rainbow you eat and what the nutritional benefits of what you're eating. It does, by the way, but it doesn't. If the calories of that exceed the calories you're going to burn, you're not going to lose the weight. So bottom layer of the pillar is calories in and out. Then the second layer is what makes that up. You know, the macronutrients, the protein, carbs, and fats. What's the balance of that depending on your exercise, your lifestyle, how active you are. And then we start to move up into the micronutrients, the finer details of nutrient, the potassium, the vitamins, the fiber, the obviously important things like water in there. And then we move up to meal timings and what time you're eating, and are you eating, you're giving yourself space hours before, bedtime with your last meal. And then maybe the top layer is supplements, which I personally don't consume a lot. So again, the ones I consume are the ones that you gave me a long time ago, which is things like, again, fish oil tablets, multivitamin, and maybe some protein powder, which I almost don't consider supplements. But whether you do or you don't, they're just, and again, I would never give, I always think with supplements, consult a dietitian or a doctor or health professional before you start reaching for them. But to your point about apple cider vinegar sits at the very top there. It's the fine margin. I used to think, oh, if I'm having this, I'm healthy. So, and it's going to make a difference, and it's like, to me, drinking apple cider vinegar, but eating whatever you want, is like changing the windscreen wiper washer fluid on your car and expecting it to perform better. It's like, yes, it's nice. it makes for better motoring, but it's not gonna make the car perform any better. So
yeah, exactly. If it's still smashed up and it's got square wheels, it's still going to perform badly. So you need to sort the big basics out first before you go any further. So, and again, it's just these are just the simple things, and different people need different messages. So it's when you were saying before, this might have been a podcast for you in that respect. Sometimes it is a case of just giving somebody the message in a slightly different way, and then automatically that's the kind of hook that they need to bring them in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody be clones of themselves, and as we know, everybody's body is different, right? Everybody's life is different, and trying to create that lifestyle that actually fits the person, so that they can continue to achieve, they can continue to live and enjoy their life. So
Yeah.
fundamentally important.
Yeah.
And I think
Hopefully,
this is something that you kind of bring on as well. So with your
yeah,
clients, you kind of build their
100%.
lifestyle.
Yeah, indeed. It's like you're absolutely right. Everybody's different, and whilst it's good to have a model and a framework that people can follow that makes sense and they understand, so that, why that and why it works. But it's everyone responds differently, and as you know, and so I see information. It's a bit like a buffet. You offer. You offer the buffet, and people will pick the bits that resonate. And sometimes it can just be a phrase. It's happened with me, with you, and others, where they'll just say something in a certain way, and you go, "That I remember that. That works for me." And I have silly things, and it might not work for somebody else, and that's okay. And I have silly little things like I talk to myself. I will, if I catch myself going to the cupboard because I'm hungry, and there's the Cocoa Pops or the crisps or the biscuits, and I found this. So I'm an emotional eater, straight up emotional. So I actually, to sort of rewind slightly, I'd say the first step in all of this is self-awareness, just getting to know yourself. So what works? So I know that accountability works for me. I love coming to your sessions that you do online on YouTube in the morning. Check them out if anybody wants to do that. Your Sharp Fit sessions, and it's the accountability. It's the kind of knowing that there's people there waiting for you. That is the same with my own boot camp. I know that people are waiting for me, so I will be there. But also things like I'll have conversations with packets of biscuits, and so because I sometimes think anyone that doesn't suffer with emotional eating will just think this is bonkers, but quite often the dialogue is one way. It's in our head. It's like, oh, the biscuits, people say things like, the biscuits are calling me. Oh yeah, that packet is calling me. Maybe just one won't hurt. I'll start again tomorrow. But it's all going around in our heads. Whereas actually, if you have a conversation with it, as crazy as that may seem, go, you are an innate object. You have no power over me. You do not serve what I'm. It's like an untrustworthy stranger or dodgy friend trying to get you to do something that instinctively is not right for you. And actually, when you, as silly as that might seem, have the conversation with it, you take away its power, and that might not work for someone. Back to your point, but it works for me. So I'm like, or it has, and it's helped me a lot, and I still do it now. Going, and I talk to the food to make stuff. It's just it can be simple as that. It doesn't need to be some scientific paper understanding the microbiome or whatever. It can just be something like that that's just gets you through a moment. I think that's the other thing. They talk a lot in sport about games, moments in games. Oh, that was a moment, and games get turn and moments. And I think it's the same with weight loss. I think we have moments, and in that moment we can blow it, or for the day. You've never blown it, but we have to navigate these moments, and a lot of them. And willpower doesn't always cut it. So we need tactics and tricks. And okay, I'm going to have a cup of tea instead. I'm going to go for a walk instead. I'm going to call my friend instead. I'm going to just to navigate past that moment. I'm going to drink some water instead. And then suddenly 15 minutes later, you're like, yeah, okay, I'm all right now. Yeah.
And it is. I mean, it's there's some massive draws. When you start looking at the way the body works, as soon as you start to eat or drink something, it has a relaxing effect. You're engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, and that in itself is a de-stressing way of doing things. So when you've got a fairly stressful lifestyle or a stressful job or something, then it's hardly uncommon for people not to be emotional eaters, because they will do that as a way of just actually almost like comforting themselves in some respects. And for some people, they won't even realize that's kind of what's going on. Because again, these are items that we never get taught about in school and things. Nobody really talks about them in the media and stuff. So actually bringing them up here, where you talk about, these are real on the floor kind of issues that you have when you're trying to either change your body, lose weight, etc. And these are tactics that do work. It might sound silly, but sometimes it's the silly things that are actually the things that work the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of, and you'll know better than me, but I know you do a lot of business consultancy as well as you do a lot actually. Snow sculpting, business consultancy, weight loss, fitness. But I think there's parallels with personal and life and business in that sense of I've just lost my thread now for a second, but something you were just saying there about it's oh yeah, exactly, sorry, I think a lot of the media, particularly social media, I'm trying to find the right expression, it portrays this image of it's your fault, and the shiny solution is over here. We've got the solution, but it's your fault, and making you feel bad. There's probably a more eloquent way to say that. Making you feel bad for that you're not, got the perfect shape, hitting the targets, whatever your aim is, losing the weight. And actually, to me, I would always say it's to somebody when I mean it's not your fault. You just haven't got the right strategy. And that's the parallel with business. You just need a strategy. And actually, or maybe the strategy you've got is just needs tweaking or changing. And I'm sure you see this in business. You go, actually, guys, if you just turn the dial on that, you'll notice a big change. You don't have to rip everything up and start again, or maybe they do, but you rewrite the strategy. And then once someone has a strategy, they just follow the strategy, and miraculously it works,
Yeah, I remember there was a piece of work done by a lady called Denise McCarthy. I think she's an Australian psychologist, if I remember correctly. Apologies, I've got that wrong. But she kind of describes kind of four types of people. One's those that kind of I'm going to paraphrase this, but basically, if you give them the reason why, they kind of just pick it up and say, yeah, I get it, and they kind of get on with it. Then there's the next kind of people that you give them the why, but they also need to know what to do. And once you kind of give them that, again, they pick it up and they get it and just get on with it. Then there's the third type of people that need to know not just why and what, but also how. How do you actually get it to work with that? And they need a lot more information. But again, once you give them it, they pick it up and run with it. And then there's the kind of last category that she comes up with, which was the what ifers, the people that effectively, the ones that ask loads of questions. They have to kind of try it on first, almost like they're testing it in their own mind before they kind of pick it up and then run with it. But it's the same thing. You give people the bits that they need, and then instantaneously they can then transform what they is. And for some people, it's just clarity over actually what's their purpose, what's their outcome, what's their aspirations. For others, it's actually that linkages between what their goal is and actually how they actually manage to achieve it. And some of it will be down to specific tactics or specific strategies. But it's great to find out which item it is. But you touched on a really powerful point there with regards to the media side of it and kind of what happens from, for example, stuff like social media. But it's not just social media. I think there is a wider piece. And I think it's now getting more recognised in the fact that actually there's a lot of kind of artificial expectations that are being put on people with regards to shape, weight, size, lifestyle, all those type of things. And I remember chatting to a marketing person, and he has like a multi-million pound kind of billing each year for his little consulting firm that deals with marketing. And he was just saying to me that actually most people will never buy a prevention. They'll always only ever buy a cure. So what they're always trying to do is to try and look at actually how can we sell something to you that actually cures something that you're supposed to have. So when you kind of put it in those terms, and all of a sudden everyone's trying to say you're wrong. You're broken. It's like it's quite a negative message constantly going out there, and actually trying to change that dialogue so it becomes more like a positive message. It's an interesting one to start to have those conversations with people as well, to say actually what is it you're trying to achieve? What are things that you're doing right at the moment? How many times you actually celebrate yourself, and how do you celebrate those things?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way you put that is right. We're made to feel that we're broken and wrong, and I think because it sells, stuff like that sells, doesn't it? And people are trying to sell things. And you mentioned at the top of the podcast, that I lost 24 kilos, kept it off. I didn't lose 24 kilos in 24 days. I lost, about 6 kilos in 6 weeks and then kept going. And if I think about it, I probably lost the 24 kilos over about 18 months, 18 to 20 months. And which to me is a very healthy time frame. But trying to put that into a headline going, hey, does anyone want to lose 20 kilos in 18 months? It doesn't sell as well as lose 10 kilos in 2 weeks, or, because it sells and people fall for it, people buy it. But yeah, I think you're right about what you were saying about the media, and we could probably spend a whole podcast on that, but
Oh
yeah,
God, yeah, definitely.
yeah,
And again, it's that whole piece about the cure piece. Like, just take these 2 pills, just have the apple cider vinegar, whatever it is. It's kind of that instant kind of fix. Whereas, it takes a while to actually put on the weight, or it takes a while to degrade your lifestyle, or it takes a while to actually build up the stress before you end up burning out. And therefore, it takes a while to undo those things as well, which,
absolutely. And that's what I think, 'cause in my case, my business, I'm talking to guys over 50, approaching or over 50. I say, guys, because actually, if we were to distill my message today into one word, if we had 5 seconds left, I'd just say habits. It's habits. And I always say, guys, you've had 50 years of habits, and you're not going to change that in 5 minutes. It takes time to change those habits. So you're absolutely right about that. And most of the guys that come into my program actually are, with some exceptions, but the majority are not. It's not because they've had a massive health scare. They might have done, but they've just reached a point where they've just put on very gradually, since they're maybe, I don't know, late 30s or through their 40s. They've just put on a kilo a year, 1 to 2 kilos a year, and they just reached this point where they're like looking in the mirror, going, "Hang on a minute, who are you?" Or they don't have as much energy as they used to, whatever the thing is. So it's just reversing that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it just doesn't happen instantaneously. I mean, I always say, when I go through my story about my journey, you kind of just take it for granted. It's like you just feel like you're just getting that little bit older, you're just working a little bit too hard, etc. That's the kind of reason why. And you find excuses, and that kind of helps to keep you there. It helps you keep you in your comfort zone, effectively, or the uncomfort zone, as a friend of both of us kind of mentions it as, or the waiting room. Could be another way of describing it. And you're kind of just there. You're treading water, effectively, until suddenly something kind of alerts you and said, actually, no, this needs to change. This actually needs to become something you focus more on. And again, it was interesting. So, like, when you went through the change, you were mentioning that it took like 18 months. And I know when we went through the numbers originally, and I can't remember exactly, but you did actually beat me. I did 10K in 3 months, and I think you did about 10.7, if I remember rightly. So yeah, and again, this isn't a game. This isn't a thing of challenging, saying you're better than me or anything else like that. It's a case of just comparing yourself to yourself.
Yeah.
And actually, the challenge and the joy almost comes out of the self improvement, so that you're saying, actually, no, I'm getting better because I've done this, and my life is getting better because I'm doing this. I'm feeling better because I've done this.
Yeah, absolutely. You're only competing against yourself, and sometimes the evidence, you get evidence from different places, don't you? You get, evidence on the weigh scales, but it's not all about that. And it's sometimes that, I nearly said dinner party comment. I don't know if people have dinner parties anymore, but it's, you're out with friends, maybe you haven't seen some people for a while, and it's like, oh, you look in shape, or you look good, or you've lost weight, or you're looking trim, and it could just be that. I'll be, thanks very much. Yeah, I've been, and I mean this for anybody, and even that's just evidence right there, isn't it? It's evidence that you've made a change and you're doing something right. And I think it's but you, to your point, you're only ever competing against yourself. Yeah, totally.
Definitely. And as soon as you're kind of in that position, you can start doing those the kind of great tricks, such as taking ego out of the whole piece. So rather than looking to do this because it's like the next biggest thing, you're doing this because actually you've got a goal, and the actions you're taking, the process you're going through is to actually to achieve that goal, which is going to achieve an outcome for you in life. And that, again, by taking the ego out of it, means that you can focus more on the outcome, the kind of longer term pieces, rather than that short termism, saying, no, I've just lifted blah or whatever, or I've just done a run that's going to take me to this. And for me, that kind of makes a big difference when having those conversations. I know when we were talking originally, and again, it's all about things like, injury prevention as well, so we can maintain our lifestyles and maintain our ways of working. And I know we've had a lot of conversations about that over the years.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it kind of has to become that if you're going to keep it off. I think, I said at the start that lose the weight, keep it off. And the keep it off is probably the harder, it's harder. It's hard becomes easier maybe, but anyone, it's a general statement, but anyone can kind of lose weight. You can, if you want to, you can just cut something out for a few weeks. There's a million different ways to just lose weight. But keeping it off is the challenge, which is where the habits come in. You're right. And then, so actually what happens when you hit your target of weight, like you lost you, and so actually weight no longer becomes the goal. Like for me personally, I don't want to lose any more weight, particularly that doesn't. So you need to find something else. And that's where other things, like for me, it was always energy. It was always, I guess I had a spectrum of things in priority. One was having energy now. Of course, I want to live as long as possible and stay out of hospital, away from hospital, if I can, forever, or for as long as possible. And those things do, as you get older, become, important. But it was having the energy now. I used to sort of tell myself, back to your excuses, uncomfort zone. It was all about, oh yeah, I want to live long life, be there for my grandchildren. But that was so far away that it was then like, but one more biscuit won't hurt. It's just one. But actually when I brought that forward to today, now I want the energy now. When my son says, can we go and play football? I want to be able to jump out of my chair and go, yeah, let's go. And not, Daddy's a bit tired today. That became, again, it's all mental, but it became a real driver. And it's just finding what yours is, essentially. Yeah,
and so many things start in our head. I mean, you have a thought, the thought creates emotion, emotions create response, a response gives you another action, effectively. And that's kind of the cycle that we all go through. Just like, for example, in a conversation here, it's always a series of questions, responses, and statements, effectively. That's how we communicate as a species. So it's always interesting when I can bring it back and say, well, yeah, it all comes back to how you deal with your head and actually start to look at those kind of time frames. And I think that it is really important, like you were saying there, just to constantly have a goal. But for me, it's making sure it's not just one. It's kind of, okay, well, let's start off with a kind of where we're going for the next 3 months, then what's happening for the next 6, what's happening in the next year, what's happening in the next 5 years, what's happening in the lifetime potentially. And that's where you can start to compound those changes. So just like you were saying, you want to be there for your grandkids and things, it's absolutely possible. And now you've kind of got ways and means of managing that, not just for you, but also for your clients. You're kind of giving that same capability of saying, well, actually, let's just break it down.
100%. And I always think sport is, whether you like sport or not, is a great analogy for this. So like to keep it current and topical, Liverpool, if you're in the UK, are arguably the best, probably the best team at the moment, or, Barcelona, if you prefer. But, the point is, if Liverpool lose a football match, they're top of the league, they're doing really well, they're in all the competitions. if they lose one game, they don't turn around and go, oh, well, that's the season gone. Let's just lose all the rest and try again next year. Of course they don't. They then look at those other things and go, but we had 22 shots, 3 hit the post, probably should have had a penalty. We're a bit unlucky, had an injury. If we do that again next time, we're probably going to win. So they have other metrics that they look at and things to be going for. And I just think that, it's good. Exactly. It is important to have goals. And at the beginning of my program, I really encourage, we talk about mindset first thing. It's the first thing before we go near calories or exercise routines. And an exercise I do, which you'll be familiar with as a coach, the 5 whys. So it's taking that, why do you want to lose weight? And usually you can, as you would probably expect, most of the answers to that are fairly common. Like, I want to live longer. I want to be, I don't know, have more energy. I want to feel less sluggish. I want to be, I don't know, it might be a mental thing. I want to improve my mental state, and or mood, or improve my relationship, whatever it might be. But there'll be reasons behind that. So then it's, so why is that important? And then people have to go, well, because if I live longer, then I'll be around to see my grandchildren. Okay, why is that important? And it gets harder as you go, particularly for us guys who are not always great at talking about our emotions. And I always say, by the time you get to the 5th why, if you need 5, some people get there quicker, but if by the time you get to the 5th why, you get to your truth. That's why you really, really want to do it. And sometimes that's uncomfortable and you might not want to share it with anybody, and nobody has to, but at least if you know it, you know why you're doing this. And that is much more powerful than be great to look great by the pool in my swim shorts this summer, which is a perfectly valid reason, by the way. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a little bit of that as well. But it might not be enough to stop me eating the biscuits on a Thursday night, so I need something more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some people, that is all it is. That's what they want, and that is the bottom of their why. They just want to look good by the pool, or they want that 6-pack, and that's okay. That's their option.
Absolutely.
Takes everybody in a walk of life, and for some people, is something more deep rooted or more fundamental, or like you're saying, being there for grandchildren, etc. But I'm going to congratulate you. You're so far the first guest on the Certain to Change that's actually brought in a football metaphor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure you won't be the last.
I didn't use my team because they're not as glamorous. So I thought everybody knows, at least, even if you don't like football.
So go on, you can give a plug for your team. Who's your team then?
Plymouth Argyle.
Okay, I understand why now. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. We're going to start.
Usually gets the response of who, or that's nice.
Well, we'll start a flame more on the comments, I'm pretty sure, on that one. But anyway, such is life. But coming back to another piece, actually, now we've kind of talked about the goals, talked about the eating, we've talked about exercise, etc. And one thing that reminds me, as you were talking about the football side, is obviously your lad's been doing a lot. Your youngest lad's been doing a lot with football, and that kind of led you to join the dance team on a Wednesday night, if I can remember rightly, at one point. But as you went through that process, and you were doing this, and you were doing your weight training, doing the running, etc., you kind of got to a point where actually it was all a little bit too much. And that was, again, needing that kind of additional rest and giving your body that time to recover. So just describe to people a little bit about what that kind of felt like and how you kind of dealt with that.
I mean, I'm not going to sort of sit here and pretend that it's not a big story around, how burnt out I was, but I did a little bit. And I think, going back to what I was saying earlier about being very eager at the beginning to consume everything and get everything right and be exact, and I guess I was at a point where I had my own transformation, and which involves lots of time, like going to the gym, keeping fit, going for runs. So it's time away from family. So I have to factor all that in. My son is youngest son. You're right, is a budding goalkeeper, and I take him to train. So there's a lot going on in the family. And I, at the same time, was trying to grow my own business, more time. And I did get a little bit obsessive, I suppose, around getting up really early. But, I'd almost attached my identity a little bit. And I think that's, there's probably a deeper conversation there for another day around, I'm the kind of guy that gets up really early and does my workout first. And I am quite ritualistic, which actually mostly serves me really well, actually. I find, habits, rituals has served me really well. But now and again, I would say it works until it doesn't. And then something goes, and like maybe you get ill, and I was feeling the effects basically of lack of sleep. Really, I wasn't getting enough sleep. I wasn't getting enough, which was the main thing, or rest in between. And just because I always go for a run, a 10K run on a Wednesday night or whatever it was, or play that dad's football thing, doesn't mean I have to every time. We're not machines. And I think I had to, last year I had a virus which kind of wiped me for a while, and it gave me time. It's like the body keeps this, if you don't deal with it here, the body's going to give you something else to think about. And I think in my case, I definitely, while I was convalescing for a while, that time was useful to just have a bit of a reset and go, okay, these things are generally great, but I had to sort of reset the rules a bit. So I now give myself a rule. If I'm going to bed later, I know, because you do a fantastic 6 a.m. Fitness class in the morning, which I love coming to that. One of the days a week on my program, I do one myself. And it's just something that I just have little rules. So if I go to bed after 11, right, then I'm not getting up at 5 or 5:30, because if I do that, with the odd exception, but if I do that consistently, I know that I'm not going to be, everything else goes wrong. Then I think we were talking about this before we started recording today. It's like, then my eating's off, then I'm, and everything just starts to slightly go the wrong way. So I just have to, and I think that's probably good, again, back to business and life. It's no harm in stop, pause, reflect. What's working? What should we keep doing because it's working? What should we start doing because we're not doing enough of it or any of it? And what should we stop doing because it's just not working for us? And even if that's temporary. And yeah, that was my sort of experience of that. Yeah.
And so there's so much about that in both business and life. We took some business examples. It's very common for people to just trying to work every hour God sends to try and get things done. But actually, there's lots of studies that show, anything more than about 90 minutes, and you're not really putting your best in. In fact, it's quite a large law of diminishing returns there. So taking that break and actually having that moment, it means you come back a bit more refreshed. And again, I know a lot of people now that actually have that break in the middle of the day, take that time for themselves, either to rest, digest the food that's going on, or maybe go for a run. And when they come back into it in the afternoon, they feel so much better. They perform so much better. They can get so much more done. Whereas actually, if they were just slogged through it and ate a sandwich at the desk or something, like it is almost, I don't know. I think there's this kind of machoism thing that seems to be the way that I think people think business should be. But actually, no, it's not. What you want to be doing is you want to be trying to find the most efficient way of being able to get something done, which isn't necessarily just constantly flogging yourself to get it done in any way possible.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think there's lots of studies, isn't there, and examples. You could sit at a desk for 8 hours, but of those 8 hours, you might be productive for 2. You're absolutely right, and it's it's all balance. It's sometimes trying to find that balance. There's an art. It's an art again. Some of that is ourselves, isn't it? It's our working ourselves out. What am I better in the morning? Am I better in the afternoon? What time of day works? And some of that we can control. Maybe some of it we can't if we're employed by an organisation that dictates certain things at certain times. But it's you're absolutely right though. Yeah.
And I think that dictation piece is probably a part of a problem in a wider issue, and I think it is kind of getting addressed. I mean, some of the more flexible working arrangements that I'm hearing about that people have got tends to kind of work, or at least it gets part way there. And I think it's a case of that kind of give and take. And I know when I was doing some work with another client of mine, he felt he'd swapped his 9 to 5 Monday to Friday for a 5 to 9, 7 days a week, because literally just contact him any time of the day because he was working around the world effectively. But that flexibility has to work both ways. It cannot just work one way. And I think half the battle there is actually getting people to stand up and say, no, actually, I'm going to take this time out. I need this time. I need this time for my family, or whatever else. Or even just, you need the time for rest. I mean, let's face it, we cannot go on forever.
100%. And actually, for guys our age, I'm 57, and I used to. So when I was busy in my former life, and don't get me wrong, I had a great time. I worked with the best bunch of guys you could ever wish to work with, and it was a great time. But that was the be all and the end all. And I would cancel doctor's appointments, move dentist appointments, health. I'd bump all that stuff out because I was busy and things were important. Everything was important. And now, I mean, well, not just now, but there was a point in time where I started to take my health more seriously, probably 10 years ago. It's flipping that to like actually the workout, going to the spin class or the HIIT class or whatever your thing is, or play tennis, is non-negotiable. And that goes in the calendar, just like you would put lunch or a meeting with your boss in the calendar, and no one would argue with it. And it goes in, and nothing, apart from an emergency gets in the way of that. And it's treating it like that. And you kind of have to, because we are bombarded with pings and distractions and messages and emails, and and again, I come back to moments. And when I was, I do a lot, and when, but rest and recovery, to your point, is so important. And I remember putting together a sort of a schedule for myself, and I'd start with the gym. Right, when am I going to go to the gym? That was the first thing. And I like to run, and I was struggling to find when am I going to run? Because I have to kind of do some work, and family and everything else. And so there are certain things that I couldn't change or move. And what I realized, and this is a kind of a hack, I guess, is in the course of a week, if you look at your meetings for the week, on average, someone will cancel. Someone will cancel or move or go, can we do Thursday instead? And there's an opportunity there to go in my case, to go for a run, or to go to the gym, or to do your thing, or go for a walk. And there's a moment, and as soon as you go, and if you go switch off and go, great, that's it, I'm going to go. Particularly if it happens on the day, in the moment, like, oh, sorry, we're due to meet in an hour, but I can't make it. And I think, great, trainers, run. Or you go, I'll just check my emails. As soon as you do that, you're down the rabbit hole. 15 minutes have gone like that. Oh, it's too late to go now. And those are sometimes the little moments that, so I managed to plan a running schedule for a marathon, which by not scheduling it, just by using opportunities, that's not wholly true, but largely I was able to find gaps to go for runs during the week by people cancelling things.
And I can appreciate that one, and know the commitment it takes to do a marathon. I'm still about 10 weeks out for my marathon training at the moment at this time. And yeah, it takes a fair commitment. But one of the things I do teach people is that whole thing of, don't cancel yourself. That's one of the key things. You pop these times in your diary, and those become sacrosanct. I mean, it's not a case of you won't move things, but it'll be a movement or a postponement. It's not a cancel yourself. You are important. You're the most important person in your life at the end of the day. But some people just don't recognise that, which is a shame. But once you've kind of got them through that idea that actually they're commander of their own destiny, they can actually make things happen for their own life. And all of a sudden, a whole variety of things open up to them.
Yeah,
100%. I think it's wonderful. Speaking of wonderful things, how would people be able to get in touch with you if they want to come and work with you?
So I sort of live on Instagram and LinkedIn. So you'll find me Mark Pitcher. So Instagram is Mark Pitcher _ Fit After 50, Pitcher Pitcher. LinkedIn, similar. I should know it, but you'll find me Mark Pitcher. If you type Mark Pitcher into LinkedIn, and you'll find me there. And Fit After 50 has a page on LinkedIn, which I haven't done much with, but it's there. And then email is mark@fitafter50.coach.
Fantastic. So
you'll find me. And I've had my hair cut. I need to get new photos because I had long hair in all my photos. So people will go, who's that guy? Yeah, it is me.
But still looking good for it. That's the main thing. Love it. And how's the guitar playing coming on?
Not very well. Not very well. I haven't touched it in about 3 months. It's one of those little things that brings me joy. No one else needs to hear it, but it brings me joy. And I'm just in a phase where I should probably take my own advice and building a habit for it. But at the moment, the business is busy and everything's busy, and it seems to be falling by the wayside. But I've got a week off next week it's half term, so maybe I'll get to pick it up.
Sounds like a plan. I have a friend who is a guitar player, and he describes himself not as one of those that are very talented, but one of those that are very brave. So,
Okay. Yeah.
You can choose whichever one you want to be. But no, thank you very much, Mark. That's been absolutely wonderful. Any other questions that you might have?
No, just thanks for having me. It's been great. I always love our conversation. It feels like we're just having a regular conversation, actually, and you happen to be recording it. So, no, I don't have any questions. I just would encourage people, if nothing else you get from this, to just do, if this acts as a catalyst to get yourself fit and healthy, then great. And if anyone wants any guidance or tips or where to start on that, then you know where I am now. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mark. Yes, thank you very much for joining us, Mark Pitcher from Fit After 50. And also thank you guys for taking the time out to listen to this episode of the Fit for Business and Life podcast. Fit for Business and Life podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, helping busy professionals and their teams become more healthier, happier, and higher achieving in business and in life. If you'd like to join us as a guest or get in touch to know more about the topics covered, then we'd love to hear from you. Simply email hello@sharpfitforlife.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Fit for Business Life podcast. Fit for Business Life podcast is produced and presented by Wax Time Limited. Copyright is applied.